Welcome to Monster Monday. So last night I could not sleep, and instead of deluding myself into believing that I was going to fall asleep like I do every night that happens to me, I decided to watch a movie and do something with my time instead of just laying there. And I watched One Dark Night, which after about 5 minutes into this, I was already online looking for a Blu-ray because I was already in love with it. Now, I had seen it before, but it had been a long time, so I had forgotten every damn thing about it. But this movie just had this incredible atmosphere and feel to it instantaneously. It starts in a graveyard, it's got lightning, and it's got amazing music. And I'm not usually a big fan of opening credits, but man, this one really sold me. And while the acting isn't amazing and the plot line is kind of silly and thin, I don't care, man. And another thing. This is something I can definitely say that I think people will not like about this movie, the ones that don't, is that it takes way too long for something to happen. That there's way too much setup for the climactic moment, and that there's really not much foreboding. But I disagree with that second part, but I could see the argument for it. I just think that there is a good enough build-up, while subtle, still effective and creepy. Now this stars Meg Tilly and also has Elizabeth Daily in it, who I of course know mostly from Valley Girl. I mean, that's where anytime I see her, I know most people would know her from Pee-wee's Big Adventure as Dottie. I'm a loner Dottie, a rebel. But I grew up on Valley Girl, and she will always be from that movie. Or, she sings at the prom and Better Off Dead. And of course, she's done tons and tons of shit since, but Valley Girl. And let me tell you something right now. This girl it's funny. When I saw it, I was like, am I seeing this correctly? Is this a lighting issue? Is this just kind of how her pants look? Like, what the fuck is going on with this scene? I guess I'll just say it really quick. She had worst doesn't sound right because it wasn't unappealing to me, because she's a very attractive lady, and this shows off of this shows off her vagina, so it wasn't like gross to me. It was just like, it was the most intense camel toe I've ever seen. Like, it was like up in her, and it was crazy. You have to look at it. You have to see it. It's when she's talking to the dude, Steve, on the motorcycle, and she's just standing there. And I'm like, I kept looking, and then I posted about this on Facebook that I was watching, and my buddy Daniel White was like, he said like, oh yeah, movies this and that, and he's like, but Elizabeth Daily has the biggest camel toe I've ever seen in my life in this movie. And I was like, oh my god, yes, okay. So somebody else noticed this as well. It's insane. It's so like, evident. It's huge, man. It's crazy. I couldn't stop looking at it. I was like, is that a trick of the light? What is that? Wow, those are some tight ass pants. But it almost looks like the pants were like designed to do it. I don't know, maybe that was a fashion in 1982, but whatever. But yeah, so this is directed by Tom McLaughlin. Gloflin, I guess is how you'd say that. This is his directorial debut. Now, he then followed this up. His sophomore effort was Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And then he directed multiple episodes of the Friday the 13th TV series and one episode of The Nightmare on... Wait, did I say Friday the 13th? I think I did. Friday the 13th, yes, the series. And then the Nightmare on Elm Street series, it did an episode for it. And he also directed Sometimes They Come Back. So he's had a decent amount of, branches into horror. I haven't seen his Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th stuff, like the TV series stuff. But this is, if I just take Friday 6, Sometimes They Come Back, and this is my favorite of the three. Like, and I grew up on Friday 6, and I really like Friday 6, and it's a good movie, but at the same time, I just really enjoyed this one a whole hell of a lot. And And there is a Myers grave in the opening of this, which I don't know if that is supposed to be a nod to Michael Myers, but it is spelled M-E-Y instead of M-Y, so I doubt it, but I saw it and it was like the prominent gravestone they showed, and it didn't have any, attachment to any characters or family in this. So, and they showed a lot of gravestones, don't get me wrong, but it was just like, it was like the first one they showed and it said Myers, and I was like, I don't know. But as I said, different spelling, so I don't know if that was coincidental or not. Probably is. Now, as far as the opening nightmare of this movie and like getting like the hitchhiking possible rape sequence, it was late last night. I had not gotten a lot of sleep, so I'm not 100% sure what this was and how it connected to the film or correlated to anything going on. I'd have to go back and rewatch it now, but I actually wrote that down and was wondering how it was going to play into the film later, and I completely forgot about it until right now, and I don't really remember why that's in here. So maybe I missed something there, but maybe I'll have to rewatch that after this is done. I wish I would have rewatched it, but I forgot I even wrote it down, because once the movie completely played out, I had completely forgot it even happened in the film, so I don't even know what that was. But then we find a crime scene, and there's cops on the scene, and they find, this very bizarre crime scene, and they call it in, and they don't know what to report exactly. And this is where the film really landed for me. Like, I had already been sold in the opening credits with the music and the lightning and the graveyard and all that stuff. The dream sequence, the nightmare stuff was whatever. I didn't really care about that. But then we got into the investigatorial, like, detective type stuff, which isn't really played throughout the rest of the movie. I mean, it's an unsolved crime that's very bizarre. It kind of sets the stage for what happens later, but there's no detectives like following the trail or anything. But it's the way they find the crime scene with all the bodies in the closet laying on top of each other, and the way that they look, their faces, the way that they're dressed, like everything about that, and then the state of the room with everything stuck in the walls, like some big psychic kinetic energy explosion happened, and it blew up everything into the room, into the walls, and the way that they find his body, the way that they find everything in the room. Just immediately I was done. I was sold. I was ready to buy the movie, watch it again. This is available on a few different streaming services right now, like Shudder and Tubi and whatever, and I actually checked out the different versions of them, and from the ones that I saw, it looked like Tubi had the best transfer. Now, if I can ever locate a decently priced Code Red Blu-ray of this, which has a 4.0 out of 5 on Blu-ray.com, which is pretty damn good, I'll definitely be picking it up, because this is one I'd like to get in my collection. This is rated PG, which is pretty wild to me. I know that PG-13 did not exist in 1982, but this feels R. Even though there's no real nudity, I don't think there's any cussing, there's no real gore, it still just doesn't feel PG to me. It feels terrifying in places. And if you look at a film like The Conjuring got an R rating, I think purely off the fact that it was so scary, like to the MPAA. This feels terrifying in places that I just can't imagine this showing this. But back then, PG, I guess, had a different connotation than it does today. I don't know, but whatever. I just thought it should have got an R, but who cares at the end of the day? It's the movie that matters, right? So it can have no rating at all, for all I give a fuck. And when the cops mess with the body that they find, the body of the main antagonist of the film, when they touch his hand, like electricity comes out of it. A lot of rotoscope in this, which they used in Jason Lives as well to bring Jason back. So very popular technique back then to put lightning on people's bodies. I've never been a big fan of the whole lightning look, especially of rotoscope, just because it looks so animated and so silly. But I don't know, I really like the use of it here. And then, of course, this is a initiation, which is always a thing in these movies. It's always like, oh, you've got to stay the night, like Hell Night or something. You've got to stay in the night in this thing, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna try to scare you. This has been done many times. Now, this is 82. How many times it had been done before this, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure Hell Night was beyond, like, later than this. I could be wrong. Remind me again in the comments what year Hell Night came out. I want to say that's like 84, 85, but man, I honestly don't know. For some reason, those are the years that are coming into my mind. I actually covered that on Slasher Sunday or Monster Monday. One of the two. Slasher Sunday, yeah. Pretty recently, but I do not remember the year. Man, bees are really, really rampant out here right now. I keep running into them. Like, I walked past a tree over here, not fucking 10 minutes ago, and there was 15 around my head at least. And now there's a hummingbird feeder here. And there's probably 5 or 10 right there just waiting to pounce on me at any moment. But you know, if you don't bother them, they don't bother you, supposedly. I don't think I've ever been stung by a bee. Have you guys? I don't know. I have not. But yeah, this girl really wants to be part of this sister club, which is only has 3 members, so I don't know why she's like so desperate to join ranks with these people, especially since Carol dated Steve, her boyfriend, before. It's almost like she has to prove to her that she is tougher than her and can have her man, but that's not really a good way to start a friendship. I don't know. These whole things, now typically they're like the coolest sorority or coolest fraternity on campus. There's like tons of members, you'll be the coolest person around. But this group definitely was not selling me on the fact that they were, you know, the coolest and the hippest and the one you want to be a part of. Like, to me, it makes no sense on why they even bothered telling us that there was only 3 members, because they outright explicitly say that. She would be the 4th, because you could say it was any number. Like, just because you don't have 100 extra girls to throw into the film, you can say there's 100 other girls. You can say they have a sorority house. You can say anything you want. It doesn't have to be shown. So why, as a writer's choice, they decided to say that there was only 3? I guess it's an exclusive club, but I mean, it's so exclusive, who gives a shit? Like, and if you're not really friends with any of them, it doesn't really matter. Elizabeth Daly's character seems to be the only like person with a moral conscience to her. The other girl, the black girl, I didn't write her name down, but she seems to be somewhere in the middle. She seems to be kind of a bitch and wants to be popular and wants to hang out with the cool girl Carol, but she also feels kind of unsure about it. But in the end, she ends up giving in fully just to be cool, so she can fuck herself. And Carol, while is a total babe, she's an absolute bitch. I mean, she's just the worst. And really, this comes down to her wanting to get back at Julie for stealing her man, or how she sees it as stealing her man. It doesn't appear that she stole her man. It just appears that she couldn't keep her man, and that a better came around, and she can't handle that. And she tries to throw herself at him, and he's like, "Get the fuck off of me." And that's just it. It's like, I don't care how hot you are. Like, you have to have moral integrity. You have to have something that is appealing to me. You know, you're not gonna just win me over like that. Like, this dude's looking for a relationship. That's what he's into. Meg, Tilly's character, Julie, and he wants her. And, you know, her motivations and everything for this, like when he kind of confronts her about like, what do you care about them and this and that, and she's like, you wouldn't understand. She's like, I'm gonna walk home, and then she literally runs. So I don't know. It doesn't work. It's the acting on that's pretty bad, and I don't think that Meg Tilly's a terrible actress or anything. I quite like her, especially in Psycho 2. Of course, that's a fantastic sequel, and she's excellent in it. But I don't know. It's as I said, the acting is not great, but whatever. But they do a good job of showing us Steve and Julie's connection when they do this montage of their date at a Funland arcade, you know, bumper car kind of place. And They always do this in movies where the photo booth isn't working and then it starts going off while they're outside of the photo booth. So they jump in and try to take photos, but it's already taken a couple photos. And in this one, the photos are like so fast. They're like boom, boom, boom. Like they take so fast. And of course, then it drops down and they're all perfectly in frame and perfectly posed together. And it's like, bullshit, I saw 2 pictures go off before you even got in the photo booth. Don't lie to me. When it came down, there should have been one without them, one with them trying to get in the frame, and then one of them trying to get positioned with each other, but it wasn't working. Now, granted, they could have put more money into it, and that's the second stream of pictures, but it would be much more authentic and realistic that the pictures looked the way that they should. In fact, in that sequence, it should just be the real photos that moment took, right? Like, it's a real photo booth, so show us the real photos that were taken in that scene, the scene that's shown on the screen. I just don't understand the reasoning for not showing the real photos, outside of showing more of like, oh, look how lovey they are. But we saw the photos taken. It's a nitpick for sure, and I don't really care. But because it's fun to talk about, I'm going to mention it. And he also comes up and covers her eyes when she's playing a game. I think it's pinball, but still. Like, I guess it's cutesy. And I guess, some people just don't give a shit and they're just there to have fun. But I'm so competitive that I'd be so pissed if you covered my eyes, because, of course, I'd be trying to break the high score. Even though I probably never do it in a public location where some idiot has set a score that's beyond possible of me being able to do in one sitting. I'm still convinced in my head that I can beat it, and that I at least have to set a score that then whoever is with me has to try to beat. I'm so competitive. So if someone came up and tried to cover my eyes, I'd be like, this isn't romantic. Get the fuck off of me. I need to win. But that's just typical me. We get Adam West in here, which I haven't seen Adam West in almost anything. I know he died pretty recently, but he plays like one of the character's husbands, I think. I don't know exactly what he is, but I'm gonna go with husband. And let's see. So this woman is related to the guy who died. It's her father, and this guy comes over and he tells her, like, there is a past with your father. Like, people told you that he had these powers and that he was told, you were told he was a fake, but he wasn't. He really had these psychokinetic powers, and that he was what they called a psychic vampire, that he could basically drain the energy of people and make himself more powerful. And this, of course, is what ended up happening, and it killed him. But did it? I mean, at the end, he's still alive. And he also gives her a tape, which then gives her the information that makes her be able to beat him by showing him his own reflection, and the power shoots back at him, which is actually a really cool sequence. The whole last maybe 20 minutes of this movie or 15 minutes of this movie, that big climax or whatever, is such a beautiful payoff. It's fan-fucking-tastic. I love it. It's like perfect. It is a fantastic climax. Like, this is how you do a climax. And that this had like an $800,000 budget, I want to say, and it was his directorial debut. This is beautiful. This is a great film, man. This is a great film. Yes, as I said, the story and the acting and all that stuff isn't perfect, but what it lacks in those things, it makes up for in style and finish. This film rules. This film fucking rules. But we'll get to the end here in a minute. Well, more than a minute, but whatever. So yeah, as I said, I don't know what her motivations are, Julie, but it seems to be that she doesn't want to be known as a wimp. So that's it. And why that matters, I don't know. Now, Carol ends up giving her drugs so that she's more susceptible to being scared and fucked with. And she'll be basically like half in, half out mentally, that's fucking evil, man. This Carol chick is just awful. Like, I was sitting there, I was shaking my head when this was happening. I was like, what a fucking bitch. Jesus Christ, man. Literally drugging somebody so that they're more scare prone and easier. Like, wow, you're evil, man. That's fucking crazy that someone would do something like that. Yet another movie that uses the term turkey as an insult. Yet again, I've heard this term so many times now lately in 80s movies. Like, all right, you turkey, get out of here. Turkey. It's so funny. It's such an insane. That's such a funny one because it's not the same as a chicken. A chicken is like you're a wimp. You're a pussy, I guess. But a turkey to me, I guess, is like you're an asshole. Like, get out of here, asshole. Like, get out of here, turkey. It's, yeah, turkey and chicken. But we kept chicken. Chicken's still used to this day. People call other people's chicken all the time when they won't do something or they think they're being a wimp. But turkey, I don't think I've ever heard that one in my lifetime. And then, yeah, Elizabeth Daily just refuses to go. And she leaves her on the side of the road inside a tunnel with a sidewalk that's like this wide. You know how dangerous that is? This chick really just only cares about herself. And I'm so glad that her and the other chick die. Like, this has a great message to it. You're a piece of shit. You're going to die. Everyone else lives. Awesome. I like that. I like that. I don't like when good people die in horror movies. Like, I'm fine with it, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of, you see that bee? There's plenty of movies where great people die. I mean, Halloween, everyone's good. So there's no bad person in that movie that dies. So there's plenty of movies like that. Friday the 13th, there's no bad people in that one. Second one, same thing. As they go on, you start to get shittier people, but there's all sorts of movies like that. But I prefer, when the shitty people die and the good people live. It's okay if they all die. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. It always feels better. It's like, yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. But I don't want that to be a precedent. I don't want that to be, like, stuck to. Because I want there to be surprise. If it always was just the shitty people died and the good people lived, that would be boring. But in that rare instance where it's just the bad people, I'm like, yeah, feels like retribution. The black girl in this, she chews on a toothbrush because I guess she has an oral fixation. Same. I bite my fingernails. I have my entire fucking life, and no matter what I do, I cannot stop. I tried the paint stuff, and I would just still chew on it, and it would be gross, and then it made my nails look all yellow and gross, and I was like, oh god, I can't put this shit on here anymore. It's something I cannot fix. I can't seem to do it, and I've been able to quit booze, and smoking and bad food, and I never did drugs, thank God, so I didn't have to ever kick something like that. But regardless, yeah, I don't know. For some reason, biting my fingernails. But I always have to have something in my mouth. Yes, insert fucking dick joke here, that's fine. But realistically, like, I cannot stop. And then the weird chick by the payphone that gives Steve the information, and she's just so, like, blah about everything. And then when she finds out that him and Carol broke up, she's like, oh, wait. Like, she wants some, but she's just, like, too awkward to do anything about it. She reminded me of a older, maybe, like, young adult Luna Lovegood from the Harry Potter movies. Like, she's just so bizarre and so, like, spaced out, but, like, didn't seem stoned. Just seemed like that was her everyday personality. She kind of made me laugh. And there is a huge long buildup, but as I said, it really, really works. So that's okay. I like how Carol and her friend, they light up a joint. They take, like, 1 or 2 puffs off of it, really, and then, like, no inhale, no nothing, just blow it out immediately, and then throw the joint against the grave, or well, I guess tomb is what we'd call it, and that's it. That's the end. That's the straw that broke the camel's back for this dude. That's immediately what sets everything off, sets everything into motion, and he from there the thing breaks open, and he's bringing bodies back from it. Like, this dude cannot tolerate joints being thrown at his tombs. So that's it. It seems like that's the moment where it happens. It happens like the second that happens. It's really funny. I was laughing about that in the movie. Like, that's the thing that brings you back in that moment? Well, there you go. So then the body in the coffin, so the coffin starts slowly sliding out and then slowly are raised to the ground, lowered to the ground, which I thought was really cool and effective and kind of creepy, and as opposed to like breaking open and then they come out and they smash on the ground and they, no, it's like he has complete control. And this is where the film succeeds in a way that like no other film that I've seen has, well, I shouldn't say succeeds, but does it in a way that I've never seen before. So instead of it being like zombie-like characters or like, dead bodies that are moving around on their own and he's brought them back from the dead, that's not how this plays out at all. The dead bodies in this are just being used by him as weapons, essentially. And they're lifeless still. Like, he comes back, he opens up his eyes, and he has electricity that's coming out of his eyes, and he's controlling everything as he's sitting there, and he's creepy as fuck. He's so unsettling looking, and every corpse in this movie is fucking fantastic. The special effects, prosthetics, all that stuff is fantastic. And the look of the rotoscope, like lightning coming out of his eyes, it seems silly, but it actually really works, and the way his face looks, and it's like lifeless and dead, but his eyes are kind of alive, is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And the dead bodies in this that he brings back, that he uses, I shouldn't say brings back, he does not bring back anybody. This is what's so unique about it. The bodies are just being brought out of their coffins, lifted up, and then they're just kind of slowly floating as if they're on an invisible treadmill, and they're lifeless. And he just like smashes them into people, and then eventually just uses so many of them that they crowd the people, pin them to the ground, and suffocate them. They don't move their arms, they don't move their heads, they're not alive. He's just using dead bodies as like weapons. Like, he just takes them and he moves them around with his mind and just smashes people with them as they're gross and falling apart. And it looks like they're alive, but they're like, it looks like they're kind of moving but kind of not. It's so effective, it's so ingenious. I just couldn't fucking get enough of it. I could watch that end climatic scene 3 times in a row, no problem. I think it's so well done and so fucking freaky and scary looking and unique, and I don't think I've ever seen another movie do anything like it. It's totally unique and original to my memory. I've never seen someone have the ability who's like this sort of dead body. He's just sitting there and he's controlling other dead bodies, but these other dead bodies are not coming back to life and having like their own free will. They're just like loose, limp bodies that are flying across the screen. And the way that they move, the way that they're being pulled towards the screen is haunting. Truly haunting. I cannot say enough. Like, this has, honestly, one of my favorite last acts. Just that last 15 minutes, like climatic scene. This has one of my favorite in horror history now. I was blown away by the ending of this movie. The rest of the setup and everything I liked it. I liked where it all went. I saw that Carol hated Julie, that Julie wanted to show Carol that she was tough, that Steve had this affinity for Julie and despised Carol at this point. And then you had the daughter who was trying to figure out her father and then finally got the visions because she has some of his powers and goes there and has to defeat him. And I like that, she's the one that saves the day, and Steve really just kind of shows his love by showing up, but he doesn't really do anything. I mean, he does nothing realistically. He could have not shown up at all, but it's his quest to help her and save her that shows us that he loves her, and that's very respectable. So but it doesn't need to be the man saving the woman kind of scenario. And I don't really even know what his end game is. I don't know what the villainous character's end game is here. He's going to leech power, I'm assuming, from Julie. He's going to take it to try to come back from the dead, maybe. I guess that's probably what it is. I'd love to watch it again to try to catch any other things that I missed. But yeah, let's see. I missed some stuff. The bodies, yeah, I already used all that. Yep. Oh, the use of neon purple too. You guys know how much I love neon purple. So the lighting is neon purple. Fantastic. Then there's a body fall at the end. You think there's something on the ground and you think it's going to like slide or come to life or something. It's the toothbrush and you think like it's going to move and it's going to show it's not over. But no, it's like a body falling into frame and there's a scream. It's a cheap jump scare, but at least it's over. It's a finale. It's done. It's over with. There's no, last pop up of the killer. It's just a body falling. That's great. I love that. So good on them for that. I think I talked about everything I want to talk about, but man, what a cool film. The monsters in this, which is really just him, but the creature effects, like these dead bodies, I guess you could argue that this isn't a monster movie, but he's a fucking monster. I mean, the way he looks and he's got like slime coming out of him and everything. Man, I loved it. Man, I loved every single fucking thing about the last 15 minutes of this movie. The score, the way it looked, everything. I want a clean Blu-ray. I'm going to look on eBay again, and I'm willing to pay a higher price than normal to get a clean copy of this. So, if you guys have any leads on a decently priced copy of this Code Red Blu-ray, I would definitely check it out. And watch it, man. It's on Tubi for free, so you don't have to have any subscriptions to anything. Go on tubitv.com and watch this one if you haven't seen it. It's fucking awesome. Some people might be bored with it. It takes too long, but man, that payoff in the ending is so fantastic. Maybe just fast forward to that if you don't care about the rest of it. If you think the rest of it sounds lame, at least watch that last 15 minutes where the bodies start to come alive. Once the coffin breaks open or whatever, and he comes out, from that moment on is just rad. But yeah, cool film. I'm so glad I rewatched this after having seen it so many years ago and not remembering anything about it. Now I can say like this is a fave. This is a fave. This just jumped up the ranks really heavily. I love this. Meg Tilly is a babe. She's not great in this, but I still really like everything. Even though a lot of it feels pointless and a lot of it feels like bad writing, somehow McLaughlin makes it work. It really feels compelling and interesting, and I'm invested the whole time. I like the characters. I like everything about it, man. I really have no gripes with this film. Yeah, I don't, I love it. So anyways, let me know. Adios.